Experts say that there was probably no other demographic more affected by the Ebola epidemic in West Africa than the youth. In Liberia, a country where the majority of the population is below the age of 25, the Ebola epidemic shut down their socio-economic lives. For Paige and thousands of her fellow students, life at the height of the Ebola epidemic meant being confined at home for months.
I would wake up, take my shower, eat, then I stay in the house for the whole day.
Wow, how was that?
Miserable.
Paige is a 7th grade student at the Sister Shirley Colmer Memorial Catholic School in the Barnesville suburb of Monrovia. It took us over an hour to get there. Along the way, we met students from area schools, many of them returning home, others going to school. The risk of contracting Ebola was too great that the government closed all schools. The shutdown lasted over 7 months. Schools around the country have now reopened. When I visited Sister Shirley Colmer School, the children were having lunch during their break. Others used the time to play. The headmaster of the school, Brother Daniel Bitala, shows me some of the new precautions that the school has undertaken in response to Ebola.
Continuing the preventive measures, washing of hands, taking a temperature. And we thank God, so far we have not had any health problem in respect to the Ebola virus.
I sat down with a couple of students to talk about how the epidemic affected them. Their main concern is how they can catch up with their education after taking a year off.
We came to school, we should have completed a whole year as the school system requires. But because of Ebola, we were not able to complete the year. And the school system is built in a way that every class serves as a foundation to the next one. And so we were in the 11th grade at the time. So because of the Ebola outbreak, we were just promoted to the 12th grade. We had the basic foundation.
Many students lost close family members. Veronique's auntie, a community worker, was a first responder. She did not survive.
I lost a few of my relatives. My aunt died at the Catholic hospital there, where she contacted the police.
Ebola hit Liberia as the country was still recovering from a long civil war. Most of the young people have scanty memories of that turmoil then, but many will remember living through the tough times of Ebola. The heavy toll is blamed on the broken down health system and an initial lack of knowledge on how to respond to the deadly virus.
For many Liberians concluded at first sight that Ebola was not a natural disease. They say Ebola was biological. But because of the history of Ebola from Congo Zaire, we all know that Ebola is a real virus, it's a real disease. And because of that, many people die because they were saying Ebola is not real, Ebola is not real, and because of the low public health sensitization of our public works, they were not really sensitizing the common men of our country the dangers of Ebola. And so even during the Ebola outbreak, you'll find people shaking hands. Yes, people riding the same car, four in the back. People were still breaking those rules because they were not really sensitized pertaining to the Ebola virus.
7 months out of school is a long time, and these students hope that their government can help them as they struggle to catch up with their education.
So those who went back, at least they can give them much time, so that they will catch up to where they were and continue from there.
As the Ebola epidemic winds down across West Africa, local healthcare systems are still overwhelmed by the scale of the outbreak. Aaron says that there's a need to provide psychological and social support to the people who survived and their families.
We all know that Ebola has not only damaged the physical aspect of our lives, but even the mental aspect. Yeah, many people were traumatized during the Ebola outbreak, and many students as well. And after the Ebola outbreak, we tried to come back in school. And it's not possible for every student in the city of Monrovia to pick up at the same time because of the struggle they went through in the Ebola outbreak.
The students say that one of the residual effects of Ebola is that survivors and family members of those who died are often isolated. And now it is their role to educate their communities about the dangers of stigma.
That stigma is very, very bad. Stigma, even some people, they were not actually killed by Ebola, but some of them were killed by the level of stigma that were on them. So if you have Ebola, if my neighbor have Ebola, I have nothing to do with my neighbor anymore. Yes, I work by my business. We don't even eat from them. We don't share from them. The brotherly love we had, it died.
They also hope that the world will stop looking at Liberia in the context of the deadly epidemic.
We went through the struggle or the process of Ebola, and then we are appealing to them to respect us and not to see us as Ebola patient and then recognize us as Ebola patient. We want them to respect us like they do us. We want them to go back the way in which they used to interact with Liberians and not to look at them as Ebola victims.
For Voice of America, I'm Jackson Vunganyi in Monrovia, Liberia.